I mentioned before, this man is a legend. The man behind massive success of the Isley Brothers throughout the 1970s to early 1980s. Isley Jasper Isley, and still in the business today, 28 years as a solo artist and well-respected singer-songwriter and musician, the one and only Chris Jasper. Chris, welcome to Radio Soul and happy MLK Day to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show. Appreciate it.
Hey, anytime. Thank you for reaching out to us. This latest album, The One. Tell me about that.
The One, I guess if there's a concept behind it, it was to, put all of the elements that I had put in some previous albums in this particular album musically. All of the keyboard work, even some guitar work and bass. I played bass on this album. And even some of the vocal things that I did that, sometimes I would only do live, but I felt everything should go on this album. and I even did a cover of Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, too. So that was an important thing for me to do, too.
Yeah, I was going to say, I definitely heard that track, and yeah, man, that was a very nice remake there. Outstanding.
Yeah, he was always one of my favorite artists, so I thought I would do a tribute to him on there.
Yeah, you can never go wrong with Marvin Gaye. That is definitely a well-respected musician and singer as well. You can never go wrong with Marvin. And like I mentioned, also, you celebrate 28 years as a solo artist. But prior to doing that, you were a part of the Isley Brothers. Now, I must ask, how did that all come about? And I know you worked with Ernie and Marvin, and how did you guys come about coming together with the other three brothers?
Well, we started off, me and Ernie and Marvin, we started off playing together as a trio. And this is when the Isley Brothers were at Motown. The older guys were at Motown. We were a trio, and we had our own some original songs, but we played a lot of covers. We did a lot of appearances in Englewood, New Jersey, Teaneck and Englewood area. And they noticed how we were coming along, and they wanted us to play with them. And so, that's how the two groups kind of got together in the early 70s.
And speaking of early 70s, how did the deal with CBS come about?
CBS, well, that came about after It's Your Thing. When It's Your Thing was released, a few years after that, the group signed with CBS.
Right, 'cause I know It's Your Thing was on Buddha.
Yeah, it was Buddha Records, before that. And then that's when That Lady came out. That's the first time, actually, that the three of us younger guys appeared on the album covers, too. Because we had played on records before then, but nobody, saw us on covers. So 3+3 was the first time we appeared on the covers.
Yeah, definitely 3+3. That was definitely the beginning of when it all started for the sextet of the Isley Brothers. Now, Ron Isley, a.k.a. Mr. Biggs. Yeah, for all my youngins out there and all the students, you know about Ron Isley as Mr. Biggs. Now, you may not just know Ronald Isley. Why don't you elaborate on Ron Isley?
Well, of course, he was, when the group first started, he was the lead singer with the three older brothers. He actually, sang lead on the songs that we wrote, for the group. And that's just the way it was. I mean, we were coming up, we were learning, and we just watched a lot of the things that they were doing. And of course, I went to music school. I went to Juilliard, and I have classical training now at that point. So a lot of things that he would do, either I would do or Ernie would do in the studio first. We crafted, those melodies and things. So that's why sometimes when people hear, my music, they hear a similarity, and that's because, I came up with a lot of those melodies.
Yeah, you're definitely the mastermind behind those years that you were with the Isleys. Now, after the gold and platinum years and being together at CBS, you, Ernie, and Marvin did your own thing also. And what was the creation behind that?
Well, then that was when we did Ozzy Jasper Ozzy. That was kind of a return to our original group. The way we started, and so we just did the same kind of things that we had been doing, with the sextet, as far as recording was concerned. And the only difference was we just kept our vocals at that point. The vocals that we would normally do before, we just kept them. So, and of course the big song from the trio from Ozzy Jasper Ozzy was "Caravan of Love."
Yeah,
that was our biggest song, and that was a song that I wrote and sang. And it's a kind of a standout for a lot of different reasons. The message in it, the fact that it was our song and my song, and I sang it. It was #1 song, and it actually went worldwide too, worldwide hit. So
yeah,
that was a really big song.
Yeah, between '84 and '85, that was definitely a big hit.
Yeah.
And it even got a recognition from Dodge.
From who?
From Dodge, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, the motor vehicle company Dodge Caravan.
Oh, yeah, Dodge, yeah, they actually used it, for the Dodge Caravan. I kind of pitched that to them, I said, you guys, you got a vehicle called Caravan, it's a perfect song for you, And they actually used it.
Good move on that. And then, of course, after parting ways with them, you started your solo career back in '87 via the LP Superbad, and now you are still making music to this day. 28 years, man.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I started off doing classical music, and I always wanted to be a composer, a songwriter, and that's kind of how my development, my young years, when I started to study music, that's kind of what I was studying, is classical music, and learning how different composers put together songs, their melodies, their harmonies, their chord structures, and that just stayed with me. And so that's always been my approach to music, even when I was with the Isley Brothers or Ozzy Jasper Ozzy. It was just coming up with new ideas. How do we structure a melody? How do we get a good groove? What people call a good groove. And a good groove is basically a chord progression. That the rhythm section will play. And so I've always approached music from a composer standpoint, and I think that's why I've written so many songs, and for such a long period of time.
Right. Yeah, and you definitely gotta have that concept as a composer, and you definitely gotta have the rhythm section, indeed.
Yeah.
And your current album, the one, once again, it's been out since 2014, and the song "Still in Love," the one that we just played, what was the idea behind that track?
Yeah, "Still in Love." I know over the years I've had a lot of people, tell me how much they liked some of the intros, on some of the songs I did with the Isley Brothers, and even Ozzy Jasper Ozzy, like "Highways of My Life" and "Lover's Eve," "Sensuality." They kind of started off with the keyboard, either piano or electric piano, and I wanted that type of concept to come back, and I started "Still in Love" off with that, and but then it drops into that that really heavy soul R&B groove, which I'm known for too. So
yeah,
that's the kind of concept I had behind that song, is to put those two elements together, and then make it really soulful.
Oh, of course, keep it diverse, but also soulful at the same time.
Yeah.
All right, before we conclude this interview tonight, how can everybody keep in contact with you via social media and everything?
Oh yeah. All you have to do is go to chrisjasper.com, and Facebook. You can reach me on Facebook from there, and all the discography, all the albums that I've done are in there. And bio, everything's at chrisjasper.com.
All right, there it is. Yes, definitely be informed about the legend. Hey, Chris, man, I want to thank you once again for joining us tonight here on Radio Summit. We definitely appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Once again, exclusive interview with my man Chris Jasper right here on Radio Soul, WRGP, Miami's World Variety of College Radio. Stick around, there is more Radio Soul right after these public communications.
There's too many of you crying. Brother, brother, brother. There's far too many.
Did you know loan modification scams come in all shapes and sizes? They call themselves